Hello everyone, welcome to Cashcroft TV. My name is Kalen Ashcroft. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Ages of Empires, where we will be going through all the major world empires throughout history. In this episode, we will be covering the Tang Dynasty and Emperor Taizong. And as well, we will be covering the Umayyad Caliphate and Caliph Abd Al Malik ibn Marwan. I apologize in advance for any mispronunciations that I will inevitably make. I'm trying to both go phonetically so people might be able to look them up based on the sound of the word if they need to, or if they can look at the perhaps subtitles that will be available on the episode. However, I also want to try to be correct, although I'm not a native speaker in either of these languages. And perhaps these languages have also changed over time, so maybe I might accidentally say it right. But nonetheless, I apologize in advance. I don't mean to be culturally not in tune. So the style of these videos is where we'll go through the rise and fall of one empire, then highlight a specific leader, usually the most important that we can find, weighed across certain dimensions. Then we will cover a second empire, do the rise and fall of that, and a biography of another leader from that empire. And then in the end, we will have a comparison of the two in the style of Plutarch's Parallel Lives, very influential book in my life, where he compared an ancient Greek and an ancient Roman leader, and through the comparison, you learn a little bit more about how they're unique. So, and through effect, I hope to also learn a bit more about their respective empires in doing so as well. So that will be the structure, and without further ado, we will begin with the first empire and leader. So the Tang Dynasty. The Tang Dynasty, or the Tang Empire, was an imperial dynasty of China that ruled from 618 to 907 CE, Common Era. With an interregnum period, there was an empress, allegedly of a different lineage, depending on how they mark it, but they consider a break nonetheless in the history of the Tang Dynasty between 690 and 705 CE. It was preceded by the Sui Dynasty, which is an empire we have also covered, and followed by the 5 Dynasties and 10 Kingdoms period, which we will cover as well. Historians generally regard the Tang as a high point in Chinese civilization and as a golden age of cosmopolitan culture, so very exciting time. If one were to go in a time machine, the Tang Dynasty would be one of the maybe top picks perhaps to go. Tang territory acquired through military campaigns, and its early rulers rivaled that of the Han Dynasty, which we have covered as well, so also a very massive dynasty. The Tang Dynasty, one of the most glorious periods in Chinese history, once again spanned from 618 to 907 CE, or AD, as it was formerly called, and therefore we'll seek to find a history of its rise and fall. So starting with its rise, the rise of the Tang Dynasty. Starting with the Sui Dynasty, which preceded it, which lasted from 581 to 618 CE. So the Tang Dynasty emerged after the collapse of the Sui Dynasty, which had faced internal strifes and external pressures, common themes to take down empires. Li Yuan, a military governor, played a crucial role in the overthrow of the Sui Dynasty. Louis Yuan's rebellion from 617 to 618 CE, Li Yuan declared a rebellion against the Sui Dynasty and eventually took control of the capital, Chang'an, in 618 CE. He established the Tang Dynasty with the throne assumed by his son Li Shimin, who is the leader we will highlight in detail. So his son was the first official emperor, known as Emperor Taizong. As for a brief overview of Taizong and the history of the Tang Dynasty, however, we will have a specific biography of him to come. So Emperor Taizong from 626 to 649 CE. Under Emperor Taizong's reign, the Tang Dynasty reached its zenith. So it's a good thing that they reached their zenith, but that also means necessarily his successors didn't do as well, perhaps. He implemented political and military reforms, but there can be multiple zeniths, but the zenith necessarily means the highest point. So there's no higher point, allegedly. And he implemented political and military reforms, expanded the empire's borders, and promoted cultural and economic development. There was a period, Zhou, Z-H-O-U, known in historiography as Wu Ju, or Southern Zhou, or the Second Zhou, or Restored Zhou, was a short-lived imperial dynasty that existed between 690 and 705 CE, when Wu Chao, that's W-U-Z-H-A-O, commonly known as Wu Zetian, Z-E-T-I-A-N, and W-U before, ruled as Empress Regent. So there was a period where the Empress ruled. The dynasty began when Wu Chao, that's Wu Z-H-A-O, usurped the throne of her son, Emperor Ruizong, that's R-U-I-Z-O-N-G of Tang, and lasted until the Emperor Zhongzong, that's Z-H-O-N-G of Tang, was restored to the throne in the Shenlong coup. Historians generally view the Wu Chu as an interregnum of the Tang Dynasty. So on one hand, she was related to her son was emperor, which is the royal bloodline, but her period was considered separate from the Tang Dynasty, so showing that likely went through, or manifestly went through, male lineage, and despite her being even related, she was not considered part of the bloodline. As for Zhuangzong's reign, that's Z-U-A-N-Z-O-N-G, their reign from 712 to 756 CE, so the Tang Dynasty continued to flourish under Emperor Zhuangzong, known for his patronage of the arts and encouragement of economic growth. However, this period also marked the beginning of internal troubles, including court factionalism and corruption. So factions at the court and corruption as well were two of the leading earliest causes of the decline of the Tang Dynasty. So as for the peak of the Tang Dynasty, the Golden Age from 618 to 755 CE, so the Tang Dynasty witnessed a golden age during the 7th and 8th century. So is the Golden Age higher than the Zenith? Maybe it is not. But nonetheless, the periods do overlap. So 618 to 755, the Zenith is within the Golden Age. But the Golden Age was in the 7th and the 8th centuries, 618 to 755 CE. The economy thrived due to trade along the Silk Road, and cultural achievements in literature, poetry, painting, and technology reached unprecedented heights. So not only did this trade bring in foreign things, and also increase the economy through exports. But as for the decline and fall of the Tang Dynasty, which has inevitably happened to all empires except those existing today, with Huang Chao's rebellion, that's Huang-Chao, their rebellion from 875 to 884 CE. Another rebellion led by Huang Chao further weakened the Tang Dynasty in the late 9th century. The capital, Chang'an, was sacked and the imperial family faced significant challenges. As for fragmentation and division, from 874 to 907 CE, in the aftermath of the Huang Chao rebellion, the Tang Dynasty fragmented into several smaller states, marking the official end of the dynasty in 907 CE. So fragmentation inevitably has happened to all other empires so far, if they were not outrightly conquered. The last Tang emperor, Aidi, that's A-I-D-I, was forced to abdicate, and China entered a period of disunity known as the 5 Dynasties and 10 Kingdoms period, which we will cover. But as for its legacy, despite its decline, the Tang Dynasty left a lasting impact on Chinese culture, politics, and society. Its achievements in art, literature, and governance continued to influence subsequent dynasties, and it remains revered as a high point in Chinese history. Perhaps the highest point was under Emperor Taizong, which we will cover soon. So thus, the Tang Dynasty rose to prominence through military prowess and political reforms. It experienced a golden age of cultural and economic prosperity. However, internal strife, such as factions at the court and corruption, rebellions, and external threats led to its gradual decline and ultimate fragmentation in the early 10th century. I'd say maybe more so it was internal factors than external factors, in this case relative to other empires. So as for a significant leader from the Tang Dynasty, likely most important, Emperor Taizong, the first after his father, who could also be considered the founder. So Emperor Taizong of Tang, born January 28th, 598, so Capricorn, but that's more maybe a Western tradition. I don't know if the astrological signs would necessarily be the same. I say that because I think astrological signs in the West are correlated to the schooling system, for example. January are the oldest in the class, and December are the youngest. So, but I don't necessarily know. I think Chinese New Year would have been different at that time. So it doesn't necessarily mean they're anything similar to a January necessarily on a Western school calendar. But nonetheless, he was born January 28th, 598 CE, and he died July 10th, 649 CE. Previously, Prince of Qin, that's Qin, personal name Li Shimin, was the second emperor of the Tang Dynasty of China after his father, ruling from 626 to 649 CE. He is traditionally regarded as a co-founder of the dynasty for his role in encouraging his father Li Yuan, Emperor Gao Zhu, that's Gaozu, to rebel against the Sui dynasty, that's Sui dynasty, in Xingyang, that's Jinyang, in 617 CE. So not only he sort of influenced his father as well to engage in this rebellion, and he was a prince himself. Taizong subsequently played a pivotal role in defeating several of the dynasty's most dangerous opponents and solidifying its rule over China. So not only was he sort of a leading figure in his father's overthrow of the Sui dynasty, but also helped in conquering other states. Taizong is considered to be one of the greatest emperors in Chinese history, and henceforth his reign became regarded as an exemplary model against which all emperors were measured. His era, the reign of Zhenguan, that's Zhenguan, is considered a golden age in ancient Chinese history and was treated as required study material for the future crown princes. So they actually had to study the life of Taizong. So perhaps, maybe by watching this or listening to this, you're getting a similar education that many princes of ancient China would have received. Taizong continued to develop imperial examination systems. He asked his officials to be loyal to policies, not people, in order to eliminate corruption. So he sort of implemented a meritocracy system through imperial examinations. Under the Zhenguan era, China flourished economically and militarily. For more than a century after his death, China enjoyed prosperity and peace brought about by the solidification of imperial protection over the Chinese regions. In territorial extent, it covered most of the territories previously held by the Han Dynasty, so rivaling it in size, as well as parts of modern-day Korea, Vietnam, Russia, Mongolia, Xinjiang, and Central Asia. This era of consolidation and conquest laid the foundation for Xuanzang's reign, also known as Emperor Taizong, which is considered to be the height of the Tang Dynasty. So he's considered the zenith, which is a great thing, but that necessarily means it declined after. Maybe not continuously declined, there might have been other zeniths, but it was the highest point, allegedly. So, the Tang Dynasty had several notable leaders, but one of the most important and influential was certainly Emperor Taizong. So here's a biography. So his early life from 589 to 626 ACE. His birth and family background, as mentioned, Li Shimin, also known as Emperor Taizong later, the second son of Emperor Gaozu, that's Gaozu, or Li Yuan, also known as, was born in Li Shimin was born in 598 CE. His mother was Empress Du, and he had several siblings. So his mother was also royal as well. As for his military service, Li Shimin displayed exceptional military skill at an early age. He played a crucial role in his father's campaigns against the Sui dynasty and contributed significantly to the success of the rebellion that led to the establishment of the Tang Dynasty. So very matured early, one could say, or at least history would hold it. As for his rise to power, starting with the Battle of Huoyi, in 617 CE, Li Shimin led Tang forces to victory in the Battle of Huoyi against the rival rebel leader Wang Shishong. That's Wangshishong. This victory solidified his position as a key military figure. As for the Xuanwu Gate incident, that's Xuanwu Gate incident in 626 CE, in a decisive move, Li Shimin confronted his brothers and forced his father to abdicate in favor of the Xuan Wu Gate incident in 626 CE. He then ascended the throne, taking the regal name Taizong. So sort of he, although is likely to have gotten the throne, he sort of forced his way at the end. As for his reign as emperor, from 626 to 649 CE, as for his political and military reforms, Emperor Taizong implemented a series of political, military reforms aimed at strengthening the central government. He reduced the power of the aristocratic families, established a merit-based bureaucracy, and reorganized the military. So maybe that's something that was important to have a centralized government, is to have fewer aristocratic families that can contest the throne as his own had previously done. So by destroying the aristocracy, that's something that was kind of done in the French Revolution, for example. The aristocracy was gone, but then it was just the emperor left alone amongst the mass or the mob. But this sort of a different history here, but nonetheless similar strategy, where the monarch centralizing authority by reducing the power of the aristocrats. And also, but maybe even further to the expanding on the French model by making it explicitly meritocratic by having, for example, these examinations. As for his expansion into the expansion of the empire, Taizong expanded the Tang Empire's borders through a series of military campaigns, which as military leaders were merit-based, so perhaps maybe more successful, including the conquest of the Eastern Turks and the Goguryeo Kingdom in Korea. That's Goguryeo, Kingdom of Korea. As for his cultural patronage, known for his support of the arts, Taizong was a patron of literature and poetry as well. He established a prestigious Qingshi Dao Tong, that's JingShiDaxuetang, Imperial College of Peking is now called, to promote scholarship. So this is perhaps where Peking University dates back to. That's incredible how old it is. As for diplomacy and foreign relations, Taizong was an adept at diplomatic affairs and maintained stable relationship with the neighboring states as well. So not only strong fists, but also knew how to use the carrot. So strong stick, but also good carrot. His reign is often considered a period of peace and prosperity, despite having to fight his way for it, even within his own family. As for his later years in succession, 649 CE, his abdication and succession. In 649 CE, Emperor Taizong voluntarily abdicated the throne in favor of his son Gao Chong, that's Gaozong, citing his desire to avoid the power struggles that he himself had experienced with his own father. So very humble to sort of change history, or not following directly in his father's footsteps, abdicating the throne rather than having his son have to fight for it. As for his legacy, historical assessment, Emperor Taizong is widely regarded as one of the greatest emperors in Chinese history, maybe history generally as well. His reign is often considered the pinnacle, or the apex of the Tang Dynasty, the zenith, marked by political stability, military success, and cultural flourishing, but as well centralization, the reduction of the aristocracy, and the merit-based bureaucracy. As for his writings, Taizong was also a scholar and wrote extensively on governance and military strategy. His works collected in the Chenguan Chengyao, that's Zhengyao, became an influential guide for later Chinese rulers, so that even you, if you're further interested, may endeavor to read. I highly recommend it. As I've seen a copy, but unfortunately I have not finished it yet, but I'd like to. And I'm now even more fascinated to do so. As for impact on successive dynasties, the legacy of Emperor Taizong continued to influence subsequent Chinese dynasties, and he is remembered as a wise and capable ruler who played a pivotal role in shaping the course of Chinese history and the Tang Dynasty. So that is the very important Emperor Taizong and the very fascinating Tang Dynasty. So as for the content of the slide, we have Emperor Taizong and the Tang Dynasty, also known as the Tang Empire and the Imperial Dynasty of China. It was preceded by the Sui Dynasty and followed by the 5 dynasties and 10 kingdoms period. The significant leader was Emperor Taizong. Emperor was Tang Dynasty, period 618 to 690, and as well, so there was that break where there was the Empress who ruled through her lineage. That's why it's a patrilineal monarchy, and and as well it reigned from 705 to 907 CE. The modern locations include China, Vietnam, and Korea, formerly, but also many other regions, such as in the Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Russia, etc. Million square kilometers, 5.4, which is one of the largest we've seen as well. I'd say tied for the largest, maybe the first Babylonian, for example. And million square kilometers, 2.08% of the world, 4.01%. That's excluding Antarctica, but 4.01 may not sound like too much, but this is contested areas. There have been warring states for many, many years in ancient China. For the Tang Dynasty to rule over all of them is maybe all the more impressive. Capital city was Chang'an from 618 to 683, and as well from 705 to 904 CE. It was also Luoyang, which was the de facto capital from 664 to 683, and the capital de jure, which is of law, from 683 to 705 and 904 to 907 CE. The government was a monarchy. The common languages were Middle Chinese, which predates both Cantonese and Mandarin. Religion was Chinese Buddhism, Taoism or Taoism, Chinese folk religion, Chinese Nestorian Christianity, Chinese Manichaeism, Zoroastrianism, and Islam. Population was between 50 and 80 million. So despite today in this territory, there's probably many more people, but technology has changed so we can support higher populations. But it's possible the population was much larger today. As a data point, Canada has about 36 million people, California has about maybe 38 or 40 million people, so a little larger than those, or maybe double, or maybe significantly larger, but still not in the hundreds of millions as some countries are today, or in the billions as some countries such as China and India are today. So in terms of images, in the top left we have a portrait of Emperor Taizong Tang on a hanging scroll created by the Ming Dynasty era, and it was kept in the National Palace Museum in Taipei, Taiwan. So that may be what he looks like, or maybe the Ming Dynasty got it wrong, but I think the fact that it's carried through history must mean it's sort of correct, and it's likely based off true stories. I'm sure that the Ming Dynasty did its research. And to the right is his portrait painting dating to the Ming Dynasty as well, which reigned from 1368 to 1644 CE, depicting the first Tang Emperor Gaozu, his father, Gaouzu, born Li Yuan from 566 to 635. He lived. As to the right we have the characters, the Great Tang characters, depicting right Tang. To the right of that, we have a Songdian Hutang dancer, which is found in Xiding, that's Xiding Temple, Pagoda in Anyang, Henan. I just find it's absolutely beautiful. It's not supposed to be a person of Tang descent or from the Tang Dynasty. It's supposed to be another person. It's supposed to be a Sogdian hunting dancer, of which some of them they rule, however. But nonetheless, it's just very fascinating. It's a beautiful piece of art, and it's sort of how they perceived somebody else, and we can see kind of what they might have been thinking about other people. To the right of that, we have the Great Wild Goose Pagoda in Chang'an, or modern-day Xi'an, built in 652 and repaired by Emperors Wu Zetian in 704 CE. Sorry, and pardon me, that's the one on the bottom. The one on above is the Small Wild Goose Pagoda, built in 709 CE, was adjacent to the Dajian Fat Fu Temple in Chang'an, where Buddhist monks gathered to translate Sanskrit text into Chinese. So showing the trade they must have done with Sanskrit from India, ancient India, but as well just how old these two sites are, from 704 CE, for example, or 709 CE. So how old these really are, and absolutely beautiful architecture. Someday I'd endeavor to visit. And in terms of further information, we have it was preceded by the Sui Dynasty, the Western Turkic Khaganate, and the Eastern Turkic Khaganate, which we covered in our first Turkic Khaganate episode. It was succeeded by the later Liang, Yang Wu, Wu Yue Min, former Shu, Liao Dynasty, and the Second Turkic Khaganate, which we will cover. And we will also cover many of those succeeding dynasties in ancient China in the five dynasties and 10 kingdoms period. Government was an absolute monarchy by the male side necessarily. First emperor was Gaozu from 618 to 626 CE. Emperor Taizong was the second from 626 to 649 CE. Emperor Xuanzong was the third from 712 to 756 CE. And Emperor Ai was the last from 904 to 907 CE. And I think there's some missing from this list, but those are some of the most prominent ones. Now, in the top right, we have a map showing the prominent provinces, or the inspection circuits known as Dao, in 742, according to the Cambridge History of China. So, very fascinating map to look at. So not only did they have this merit-based bureaucracy, but they also divided into inspection circuits, so very much centralizing government and making it in some ways authoritative, but also perhaps in many ways more functional. So, as for the next empire, the Umayyad Caliphate. So the Umayyad Caliphate, or Umayyad Empire, was the second caliphate established after the death of Islamic prophet Muhammad. The caliphate, we covered previously, the Rashidun Caliphate, which was the first. The caliphate was ruled by the Umayyad Dynasty, also known as the Umayyads. Uthman ibn Affan, the third of the Rashidun Caliphs, was also a member of the clan. So the family, so they have roots with the Rashidun Caliphate as well. The family established dynastic hereditary rule with Muawiya ibn Abi Sufyan, longtime governor of Greater Syria, who became caliph after the end of the first fitna in 661 CE. After Muawiyah's death in 680 CE, conflicts over the succession resulted in the second fitna, and the power eventually fell to Marwan I from another branch of the clan. Syria remained the Umayyads' main power base thereafter, with Damascus as their capital. So it's a very quick overview, but this will all make more sense soon. So the Umayyad Caliphate, one of the earliest Islamic caliphates, played a significant role in the expansion and consolidation of Islam during the 7th and 8th centuries. Now we will seek to find its rise and its fall. So the rise of the Umayyad Caliphate. So starting with the Rashidun Caliphate from 632 to 661 CE. So the Umayyad Caliphate emerged in the aftermath of the Rashidun Caliphate. After the death of the fourth caliph of the Rashidun Caliphate, Ali ibn Ali Talib, a dispute arose over the leadership of the Muslim community. So as for the first caliphate from 661 to 750 CE, so the Umayyad Caliphate was established in 661 CE, with Muawiyah the first becoming the first Umayyad Caliph. This marked the transition from the era of the rightly guided caliphs to the hereditary rule of the Umayyads. So the rightly guided caliphs were not necessarily hereditary, but it was, but the Umayyads necessarily were. As for the expansion of the empire, under the Umayyad Caliphate, the Islamic empire expanded rapidly. Caliphs such as Umar ibn Abd al-Aziz and Abd al Malik, whom we will cover, implemented administrative reforms and consolidated the territories conquered during the Islamic conquest. To confirm, the rightly guided caliphs are the sort of the descendants of the first caliph of the Rashidun, the ideological descendants of the first caliph of the Rashidun Caliphate. As for the expansion of the empire under the Umayyad Caliphate, the Islamic empire expanded rapidly. Caliphs such as Umar, Abd al-Aziz, and al-Malik, whom we mentioned, who we will cover explicitly, expanded explicitly. Damascus as the capital soon, so Damascus under the Umayyads became the capital of the Caliphate. The Umayyads focused on centralizing administration and establishing a hereditary system of succession. So they were the ones who established this hereditary system of succession. As for the Golden Age and challenges, so cultural and economic prosperity. So the Umayyad Caliphate experienced a period of political and economic prosperity during the 7th and 8th centuries. It became a center for learning, trade, and artistic achievements as we shall see. Absolutely massive territory. As for internal strife as well, even during its rise, despite its successes, the Umayyad Caliphate faced internal challenges. The early Umayyad caliphs struggled to maintain control over the diverse and vast territories, which we'll see as maybe one of the the pitfalls or the flaws of the caliphate, having too many different groups, and tensions between the Arab ruling class and the non-Arab Muslims emerged. As for the abdication of Caliph Marwan II in 744 CE, Marwan II, the last Umayyad Caliph, immediately moved north to Haran and faced internal revolts and uprisings. In 744 CE, he was defeated in the Battle of the Great Zab by the Abbasid forces led by Abu al-Abbas al-Shafa. As for the fall of the Umayyad Caliphate that followed, so the Abbasid Revolution from 747 to 750 CE. So the Abbasid Revolution, led by the Abbasid family, aimed to overthrow Umayyad rule. It gained momentum with widespread dissatisfaction among various factions, including non-Arab Muslims, and culminated in the Battle of Zab. So this family starts an uprising against the Umayyad dynasty, which is also necessarily a family as well. So sort of their own style was that which opposed them, leading to the Battle of Zab, which we could see as kind of a civil war in some sense. So, as for the Battle of Zab in 750 CE, the decisive Battle of Zab in 750 CE marked the end of the Umayyad Caliphate. Marwan II was defeated, and the surviving Umayyad family members were hunted down, so they had to kill off the whole lineage. That's why one thing about people talk about the English monarchy is one thing that it's so guaranteed is that they know its descendants up to 100 people down the line. So to get rid of the royal family through violence, you'd have to assassinate 100 people simultaneously, more, which is almost impossible and unthinkably cruel. But nonetheless, this was accomplished. They hunted down the Umayyad family members, and allegedly maybe they're hidden, maybe there's still descendants today, but as far as we know, they were killed or hunted down. So as for the massacre of the Umayyads, the Abbasids, led by Abu al-Abbas al-Safa, carried out a massacre known as the Abbasid Revolution, Abbasid Revolution's Bloody Thursday. Many Umayyad family members were killed, with only a few managing to escape to Spain, so maybe their descendants are, if any, in Spain to this day, perhaps. And as for the establishment of the Abbasid Caliphate in 750 CE, so the Abbasids established their own caliphate, with the capital moved to Baghdad. This event marked the end of the Umayyad Caliphate, and the surviving Umayyads established the Umayyad Empire of Cordoba in Al-Andalus, Spain. So they shifted over to Spain, but the Abbasids created their own caliphate, which we will cover. So as for the legacy, the Umayyad Caliphate, while relatively short-lived in its centralized form, left a lasting impact on Islamic history. It contributed to the spread of Islam and played a crucial role in shaping the cultural, economic, and political landscape of the early Islamic world. The Umayyads who escaped to Spain continued their rule there, establishing a unique and influential Islamic civilization in Al-Andalus, which is in modern-day Spain. So this is I'm just going to wait to say it, but this is also the largest empire we've covered so far, so take maybe that just to how grandiose it really was, and largest by a huge margin. It's almost twice as large as the Tang Dynasty, or over twice as large. So, as for the significant leader of the Umayyad Caliphate, we have Caliph Abd Al Malik ibn Marwan. So Abd Al Malik ibn Marwan ibn al-Hakam is his full name. Born supposedly July or August 644, so maybe a Cancer or a Leo like me, but maybe didn't follow our calendars and maybe had no effect, or born in June or July 647 CE, so also could be something very different as well. I think that would be a Gemini or a Cancer, but doesn't matter too much. And born in October 9th in 705 CE, as far as I know, it doesn't matter too much, but nonetheless, was the 5th Umayyad Caliphate, or Caliph, pardon me, ruling from 685 until his death in 705 CE. A member of the first generation of born Muslims, his early life in Medina was occupied by pious pursuits. He held administrative and military posts under Caliph Muawiyah I, who reigned from 661 to 680 CE, founder of the Umayyad Caliphate. So he worked under this Caliph Muawiyah, who would come to found the Umayyad Caliphate. And as well, it was also his own father, must be noted. Caliph Marwan the First, who would also become Caliphate, who reigned from 684 to 685 CE. By the hereditary, I believe that also means Marwan the First was Muawiyah the First's son or grandson. I think son. By the time Abd Al Malik ascension, Umayyad authority had collapsed across the caliphate as a result of the second fitna, as mentioned. The first and second fitna, which were kind of civil wars or uprisings, and had been reconstituted in Syria and Egypt during his father's reign. So had already declined and risen again before his time even came. So further detail on that. So the Umayyad Caliphate had several notable leaders, but one of the most influential was Caliph Abd Al Malik ibn Marwan. Therefore, we seek to find a biography of his life. So, Caliph Abd Al Malik ibn Marwan, 646 to 705 CE. As for his early life and background, Abd Al Malik ibn Marwan was born in 646 CE in Medina, the son of Marwan I, a prominent member of the Umayyad clan, part of the royal family that would be what would become the royal family and was within his lifetime. As for his family and uprisings, Abd al-Malik belonged to the Umayyad family, a powerful and influential clan within the Quraysh tribe. Quraysh tribe, pardon me. That's Quraysh tribe. He grew up in the midst of a political and social turmoil during the early years of the Umayyad Caliphate, so he had seen that things didn't just always fit together perfectly, so he had to learn how to be strategic. As for his rise to power, as for his governorship, Abd al-Malik served as the governor of Medina and later as the governor of Syria during the caliphate of his father, Marwan I. As for his succession to a caliphate in 685 CE, after the death of his father in 685 CE, Abd al-Malik succeeded him as Caliph of the Umayyad Caliphate. His ascension to the caliphate marked the continuation of the Umayyad rule and the consolidation of central authority. So sort of continuing down the path, but doing it perhaps maybe more effectively than his predecessors. As for his reign as Caliph, his administrative reforms, Abd al-Malik implemented administrative reforms to strengthen the central authority of the caliphate. So something common that all these empires sort of need at least to rise is to centralize. So far, he established a professional bureaucracy, so similar perhaps to the Emperor Taizong we just covered, to strengthen the central authority of the caliphate. He established a professional bureaucracy, as mentioned, and introduced a uniform currency system, which facilitates more transactions, replacing the Byzantine and Sasanian coins with Islamic coins bearing Arabic inscriptions. So it also has a cultural effect, too, by changing the currency. As for construction of the Dome of the Rock, maybe one of the most important achievements of all Islamic history. So one of the Abd Malik's most significant architectural achievements was the construction of the Dome of the Rock on Jerusalem, which I have been fortunate to visit. And a very, very fascinating, beautiful place. It's actually, I think, the third most important place in Islam, but Jerusalem's the most important in Christianity and Judaism, or second, maybe Christianity, but I think it's first because that's where Jesus is buried. But it's certainly the first in Judaism. Maybe it's the second, but I know Mecca is the most important in Islam today. But the Dome of the Rock is the most important Islamic site in Jerusalem, and was completed in 691 CE, and is considered a masterpiece of early Islamic architecture and a symbol of the Umayyad Caliphate. It is absolutely beautiful, beautiful site, and very spiritual feeling too, very religious even, godly, we could say. As for his military campaigns, Abd al-Malik faced external threats during his reign, particularly from the Byzantine Empire, which we have covered, not to be easily threatened with. He conducted military campaigns, notably the Second Fitna, civil war within the Islamic community, to maintain territorial integrity of the caliphate. So he was involved even in the Second Fitna. As for the consolidation of territories, Abd al-Malik successfully consolidated the territories of the Umayyad Caliphate, maintaining stability and order within the empire. So really consolidating this massive empire, which is 11.1 million square kilometers, the largest we've covered so far by twofold. As for his succession and legacy, his succession planning, Abd al-Malik implemented a hereditary succession plan, so also implemented the hereditary plan to ensure the continuation of the Umayyad rule within his family. His son, al-Walid I, succeeded him as caliph. Was it perhaps egotistical or was it practical? That's a question perhaps one can ponder. As for the legacy, that is creating the hereditary succession. As for legacy, Abd Al Malik is remembered as a capable and pragmatic ruler who brought stability to the Umayyad Caliphate during a critical period, keeping it together and consolidating it even, and while doing so, creating artistic and architectural achievements. His advantage, and also forming one currency of their own. His administrative, military, and architectural achievements contributed to the empire's strength and endurance. As for his cultural contributions, Abd al-Malik's reign is associated with the promotion of Arabic as the administrative language and continuation of the cultural and linguistic identity of the Islamic world. So his influence in expanding Arabic as a language across this 11.1 million square kilometers, even to this day, cannot be underplayed. Thus, Caliph al-Malik Ibn Marwan's reign played a pivotal role in shaping Umayyad Caliphate's trajectory, leaving a lasting impact on its governance, architecture, and cultural identity. So, incredibly important and fascinating leader. As for the content of the slide, so the title, we have Caliph Abd al Malik Ibn Marwan of the Umayyad Caliphate and the Umayyad Caliphate. It's known as the Umayyad Empire, or second caliphate established after the death of Islamic prophet Muhammad. It's a caliphate ruled by the Umayyad Dynasty, or Umayyads. It became hereditary succession necessarily. Significant leader, Caliph Abd al Malik Ibn Marwan. Empire, Umayyad Caliphate. Period, 661 to 750 CE. Modern locations include Syria, Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon, Palestine, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, and Spain. Million square kilometers was 11.1, which is twice as large as the largest empires we've covered so far. Million square miles is 4.29 million square kilometers. Percent of the world is 8.24%. That's absolutely massive, almost 10% excluding Antarctica, and they were also very populated regions as well. Capital was Damascus from 661 to 744 CE, and later Haran from 744 to 750 CE. Government was a caliphate and later hereditary, necessarily hereditary caliphate. Common languages include Middle Persian, Coptic, Medieval Greek, Latin, and various regional languages, and Arab became the prominent language under Caliph Abd Malik Ibn Marwan. Religion was Islam, as one might guess, but there was people who were not Islamic that they ruled over. Population was tens of millions, which I find to be surprisingly small, but I think it was possibly, and I'm speculating here, it could be in the hundreds of millions if I were to guess, but maybe similar in population to that of the Tang Dynasty. So while a much larger region, less populated. And I think it was maybe because they had less sedentary people, but they also had less fertile ground, perhaps. But nonetheless, the population is less than I would have estimated, but this is also complete speculation. Tens of millions could be anywhere between 20 to 90. So, and I think even it includes 100. 10 is tens it is. So in the images, in the top left, we have a gold dinar minted by the Umayyads in 695, which likely depicts Abd al Malik, so showing how they created their own currency. He put his own self, so established a culture, but also more transactions and more trade within the community. To the right, we have Haran, which is the later capital. So it's a small city, or a small town now, but the sites, just looking at the images, look absolutely beautiful in Turkey. My parents went to Turkey without me, but someday I endeavor to go to Turkey. To the right, we have the Umayyad Mosque in Damascus, which is a beautiful site I'd like to visit as well. And the last image in the bottom, we have the city of Rasafa, the site of Hisham's palace and court. I think it's just a beautiful, beautiful image. Anything of great photography, even more so, but we can see sort of the ruins, and there's a great poem by Ozymandias by Percy Shelley, and it's great how great Ozymandias was, but in the end he's sort of just rubble. And that's sort of, the Umayyad Caliphate is twice as big. It's actually the 8th largest that we will be covering, so it makes it, we're in the top 10 here. The Xiongnu were actually number 10, which we did cover. So the number 8th largest empire we will ever cover. But nonetheless, it's in ruins now, so no matter how great they are, inevitably falls. So in terms of additional information, social organization, the Umayyad Caliphate had 4 main social classes. Muslim Arabs were the first, maybe that's why they only count 10 million there. Then there was 2 Muslim non-Arabs who were clients of the Muslim Arabs. So they're sort of different, same religion, but different descendants, or different lineage. the dhimmis, who were non-Muslim free persons such as Christians, Jews, and Zoroastrians, who were perhaps even treated poor, and then there were slaves, who were treated the poorest, likely. Caliph, the first was Muawiyah, from 661 to 680 CE, and Marwan II was the last from 744 to 750 CE. Some history: the Hassan-Muawiyah Treaty was formed in 661, starting the Umayyad Caliphate, and the Abbasid Revolution was in 650, ending the Umayyad Caliphate. It was preceded by the Rashidun Caliphate, which we have covered, the Byzantine Empire under the Heraclean Dynasty. We've covered the Byzantine Empire, the Gothic Kingdom, which we've also covered, the Exarchate of Africa. We have talked of indirectly, the Kingdom of Oris as well, the Kingdom of Altava, Brahmin Dynasty of Sind, and the Hephthalite Empire, which we've also covered. It was succeeded by the Abbasid Caliphate, who necessarily defeated them, the Emirate of Cordoba, Bargawata, Emirate of Nakor, Emirate of Tlemcen, and Bavand Dynasty. So big shoes to fill. So that is Caliph Abd Malik, Marwan, and the Umayyad Caliphate. We will now have, and in the top right, we have a map showing the absolute massive 11.1 million square kilometers. The largest, number 8 of all empires we will cover, 8th largest in terms of geographical extent. So a comparison between Emperor Taizong and Caliph Abd Al Malik ibn Marwan. So Emperor Taizong of the Tang Dynasty and Caliph Abd Al Malik ibn Marwan of the Umayyad Caliphate were two significant leaders in the 7th and 8th centuries. While they lived in different cultural and geopolitical contexts, the comparison reveals certain similarities and differences that we might allow to learn more about them. So as for their similarities, their military prowess. Emperor Taizong was a skilled military strategist who played a crucial role in the military campaigns that expanded the Tang Empire, and maybe even been involved in the coup that his father threw to form the dynasty. As for Caliph Abd Al Malik faced external threats and conducted military campaigns to safeguard the territorial integrity of the Umayyad Caliphate. So they're both successful, very successful, and even more successful than their predecessors, and more successful than their successors in this military success. As for their administrative reforms, Emperor Taizong implemented administrative reforms, reducing the power of aristocratic families and establishing a merit-based bureaucracy. Caliph Abd al Malik centralized the administrative authority of the Umayyad Caliphate as well, introducing bureaucratic reforms, perhaps reducing the power of certain aristocratic families as well, but that's not explicitly said, but also implementing a uniform currency system, which is a different form of centralization. It's a financial centralization. As for cultural patronage, Emperor Taizong was a patron of the arts, supporting literature and the establishment of the Qingshi Daxuetang, that's Jingshi-Daxuetang, which is the Imperial College of Peking, to promote scholarship. Also, his book on leadership is incredibly important in terms of subsequent emperors, but also I would recommend as literature to modern aspirational leaders. And the founding of the Imperial College of Peking, one of the oldest universities in the world. As for Caliph Abd al Malik is known for the construction of the Dome of the Rock, an incredibly important architectural achievement and really stunning in Jerusalem, a masterpiece of Islamic architecture, showcasing his cultural patronage. And also the currency showing his cultural patronage in terms of increasing trade, but they're both really had an appreciation for the arts besides just being great military leaders. But as for some differences, their geopolitical context, Emperor Taizong ruled over the expansive Tang Dynasty in East Asia, covering present-day China and parts of Central Asia, so different areas, certainly. Caliph Abd al Malik led the Umayyad Caliphate in the Middle East, North Africa, and parts of Europe, with a focus on the Islamic world. So despite very similar times, even some overlapping years perhaps, their regions never overlapped, and they certainly never saw each other. As for their religious and cultural background, Emperor Taizong ruled in a predominantly Confucian and Taoist society, with the Buddhism also playing a significant role, but he himself, there's not too much explicitly about him being overtly very religious. whereas Caliph Abd Al Malik governed in an Islamic context, implementing Arabic as the administrative language and contributing to the cultural and linguistic identity of the Islamic world. So necessarily Islamic, ruling an Islamic state, but maybe less religious necessarily than his predecessors, but sort of by growing Arabic is effectually was growing Islam, but maybe less directly. But so neither of them are maybe the most religious of the leaders, despite Caliph Abd al-Malik ibn Marwan being explicitly from a religious empire. But I'm saying him relative to maybe some of the other caliphs. As for the succession and legacy, or maybe a bit about their background. So Emperor Taizong was the second in line. Second emperor, Caliph Abd al-Malik ibn Marwan was the fifth, but neither of them were the first and neither of them were the last. But I think both of them were necessarily the zeniths, so very similar. But that also means they both could have done better in their legacy, which we will cover. Succession and legacy. So Emperor Taizong abdicated the throne in favor of his son, something quite humble because Emperor Taizong had to fight his father even. To what degree is hard to say, but he had to sort of force the abdication of his father. But he himself abdicated by choice to Gaozong, Gaozong, contributing to the stable succession of rulers. His legacy is regarded as one of the high points in Chinese history, but a hereditary transfer. Caliph Abd al-Malik instituted a hereditary succession plan, ensuring the continuation of Umayyad rule within his family. His reign is associated with stability and lasting contribution of Islamic culture.
I couldn't find that in your Apple Music library. You can ask me to play a radio.
Sorry about that, my Siri. The Emperor Taizong was necessarily he gave it to his son because sort of that's how it was necessarily supposed to be done, whereas Caliph Abd al-Malik formalized the process of making it hereditary through the son. But both of them were certainly pro-hereditary transfer and wanted to streamline it. But inevitably, both of their empires did not fare as well following them. So thus, while Emperor Taizong and Caliph Abd al-Malik led in different cultural and religious contexts, they both left indelible marks on their respective empires through military success, administrative reforms, and cultural contributions. Their leadership styles reflected their unique challenges and opportunities present in the Tang Dynasty and Umayyad Caliphate during their respective periods. Two very, very fascinating empires, two very, very fascinating leaders. I very much hope you enjoyed. I'm grateful for your support, and I'd be very grateful if you continue to do so. So thank you very much. My name is Kalen Ashcroft, and this is Cashcroft TV. Thanks again.